We are the OFAR team from Cosumnes River College. We share a vision of empowering all our students to succeed in an academic world where the structure of scholarship, teaching, and assessment is constrained by Eurocentrism and white supremacy. We have done this through diversifying the people represented in our course content and incorporating intersectionality in our course material so that each of our students can see themselves as valued members of a community of scholars.
Hello, my name is Gail D'Artes. I teach in the Theater Arts Department at Cosumnes River College. Specifically, I teach a course titled Diversity in American Drama. The course curriculum does not directly address or discuss the way racism and white supremacy have shaped and corrupted our theater institutions in America. Students' questions and curiosity about diversity in American drama guided the creation of a new module, not a moment, but a movement toward an anti-racist American theater. Are we going to be discussing topics like racism? How has the representation of diverse identities evolved in American theater over the years? Is there a problem with the lack of diversity in theater? What could be done to improve this? How can we contribute to promoting inclusivity within the realm of American drama? We began by reading and responding to We See You, White American Theater, the letter that calls out racism and white supremacy in American theater. We also looked at how theater makers responded to the demands in this letter to change business as usual. Students responded to the content in this module primarily within small group discussions, audio recordings, and an investigation of specific theater companies to see how any of their responses to the letter manifested in DEI statements or practices in casting or hiring.
My name is Fayrouz Ahmed Ramirez. I teach English 300 College Composition, and this is my Open for Anti-Racism showcase. How did my instruction and students' voices and personal research help fill in gaps of truth and knowledge in the English classroom? Many authors' works centered in English classes are Eurocentric and ethnocentric, representing authors and narratives with a white Western colonizer gaze. Traditional English curriculum has failed to center the voices and lived experiences of the students we are serving. Further, mainstream reporting news consistently presents facts without reporting nuance and complexity, specifically when discussing controversial topics such as race, immigration policy, and war. So how might oral history stories illuminate truth and knowledge? The Solidarity Project, Preserving an Oral History Story, allowed students to explore this question. After reading and discussing ethical considerations for conducting oral history interviews, students had the options of representing their personal family history juxtaposed against what has already been said or documented, not documented, about their personal histories, to add nuance and complexity to their personal stories. Or students had the option of interviewing someone from a different cultural background to better understand that person's personal story and social positioning in society.
Hi, I'm Greg Beyer, and I teach history at Cosumnes River College. For my OFAR project, one of the things I'm doing is having my students attach their personal identity to the summative assessment that I do in my class. To help my students get to a place where they feel comfortable sharing part of their identity, I have 3 different discussions where I ask them to scaffold their identity and become comfortable sharing that with their classmates before they do it in a theme project. The first one is the introductions discussion, the icebreaker for my class. I call it the identity introduction, and in it I ask my students to take a look at this identity wheel and to share how 1 or 2 of those, why they're important to them. A few weeks later, the next scaffolded identity discussion is what I call identity and learning, and I ask them to share how their identity has affected their learning. And for the third scaffolded identity discussion, I call it identity and memory, And I asked my students to share how they document or how they make memory, I call it a memory marker, of some important events to them. Again, something that's important to them.
So, hello, my name is Noah Gardner, and this was my shotgun approach to OFAR. Many students come into non-majors biology thinking that they hate science, that science isn't for them. So I took a multifaceted approach to centering my students and their identity. I sought to have them this semester not only do science themselves, but also to see why this was, that science has been gatekept by the old guard for centuries and used as a tool of oppression to maintain white supremacy. I sought to make the social issues in biology entrenched into discussions of all topics. Further, I wanted to give students the chance to do some course creation themselves, not only by rewriting some old quiz questions of mine, but also by generating H5P content on Lever Studio, which are now embedded into learning modules for their peers and for future students. Finally, we put these skills together to have students talk about these topics from an informed, scientific perspective. After students practiced plenty talking science to each other, I had students try to practice engaging with someone who is misinformed. That is really hard, I know. And the hope is to empower students by giving them a skill, reading, writing, and talking science that they'll take with them from non-majors biology.
Hello, my name is Kelsey Ford, and I teach English composition. For my OFAR action plan, I focused on open pedagogy and non-disposable assignments, since those concepts were relatively new to me. I attempted to engage students in a new way by having them create a semester-long research project website related to education, racism, and/or stereotyping. My hope is that students will be excited about creating something that combines both visual and written work in a website form that they can share with others within our classroom and beyond. Here is a sample of one of those projects. This project focused around the disparity in infant mortality rates between Black and white women. On the home page, we see the overall claim for the research project, as well as some background on the issue. Each of the subsequent pages develops a particular segment of the research project. On the Why It Matters page, there are 3 evidence-based premises about why this issue is important. On the Attempted Solutions page, the student discusses how the current approaches to this issue are falling short. And on the My Solution page, the student offers a possible proposal for how to address the issue. Lastly, on the Sources page, the student provides her annotated bibliography, a works cited section, and a summary and response essay based on one of her sources. In addition, the About Me section showcases the student's interests and her literacy narrative essay from the beginning of the semester. Such a project has allowed students to share their research with the rest of the class, resulting in class discussions about anti-racist issues that the students care about.
OFAR inspired me to make sweeping changes to my introductory anatomy and physiology course. I created a liquid syllabus using more inclusive language, used more student-centric course policies, wrote my own kind of textbook using Canvas pages and supplementing with an OER textbook, and I populated the course with examples reflecting the diversity of my students and their interests. I also developed more non-disposable assignments, including those that utilize metacognition or open pedagogy, and converted my summative assessment into a group project. Most of my students are going to be allied healthcare professionals, and the group project is intended to help them prepare for their careers by doing a deep dive into a common disease or illness that disproportionately impacts members of our community. The group project helps students develop information literacy. It also helps students develop patient education materials, such as this infographic one group developed on obesity. Students are also asked to develop social media posts that explore the disproportionate impacts of a disease on certain groups, as well as biases that can affect the diagnosis and treatment of those diseases. And here we see an example of one of the social media posts that our that one of the groups developed this semester. Totally blown away. I plan to use these deliverables from the group project as learning objects for future semesters. Although asynchronous online group work is a challenge, students tell me that they felt the greatest connection to me and their classmates while working on the group project. I hope that they apply what they learned during my course to their future role as advocates for equitable and unbiased healthcare.